Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Duke, and welcome to The Takeaway. Glad to have Alex Newman with us again. And Alex, you're another great piece of reporting from you. This might have been the easiest, most obvious story you had to write. Headline, Teachers' Unions Corrupt, right? That couldn't have involved a whole lot of critical thinking from you. Talk a little bit about the latest scandal with the NEA and the teachers' unions.
Yeah, well, it's a shame that we had to rely on some of America's last real journalists, the guys over at Project Veritas, led by James O'Keefe, to expose these stories, because everybody kind of knew this, and any legitimate newsroom with a budget and reporters ought to have been doing this kind of work. But what happened is they sent undercover reporters in to go talk to some of these union bosses, pretending to be different things, relative of a corrupt teacher, somebody who had sexually abused or beaten a child or something, and it was absolutely no surprise to find out that the unions would be more than happy to protect these teachers, not only from consequences at their school, losing their pension, getting fired, but also from law enforcement by bending the truth, by lying, and it's a cesspool of corruption, and we just got more evidence of that today. This week and last week.
Yeah, the undercover film is amazing. You've got high-ranking union officials basically coaching people, telling people that no one's going to jail, that our job is to basically cover up for teachers no matter what they do for any reason, lie, bend the truth. We know for a fact, right, that there's a big building in New York City where thousands and thousands of teachers who are not allowed to teach get paid their full salaries every day. They don't go to the school. These are teachers that have been abusive, that have been sexually assaulting kids. They're sent to this building where they're protected by the union, where they get their full pay, and they do crossword puzzles all day. And then we wonder why education is so inefficient and expensive.
Absolutely. It's a disgrace. And unfortunately, this is not a new problem. Everybody kind of has this understanding that the teachers' unions are corrupt and run by absolute wackos. But, even my mind was blown. And I knew a lot of this. But there's a book out there called NEA, Trojan Horse in American Education. This is about the National Education Association. And if I'm not mistaken, it was written decades ago by actually a good friend of mine, the late Dr. Sam Blumenfeld. This book is mind-blowing because what he shows you is that the entire leadership of this organization was dominated by communists, Marxists, socialists, radicals, extremists, people who wanted to push perversion on kindergarten children. And you combine this with the Department of Education, the education establishment, and you realize that the entire so-called public education system is this giant cesspool of corruption and brainwashing and dumbing down. And then we wonder why our kids are out marching in the streets for, gun control or abortions or socialism or whatever.
Yeah, and these unions are particularly dangerous. I remember a few years ago there was an interview with a high-ranking official who basically said during an election campaign year, we don't care about your kids. We're not the least bit interested in your kids. We're interested in protecting and promoting our unions, right, to make sure that our teachers continually get paid more, that any oversight that the state or the moms and dads or local communities might have over teachers, we're going to make sure that has no ability to censure or fire or do anything to teachers, even really, really rotten teachers, dangerous teachers. We're going to protect them at all costs and let the kids be damned. It's a terrible system, like you said, between a corrupt Department of Education that is using federal money to bribe and blackmail schools into all sorts of wicked things, but then you factor in these unions whose only objective is to make sure that teachers, no matter how underperforming, no matter how dangerous they are, can't be removed. And yet you've still got these young skull kids full of mush who really who's in places like Parkland, who see the real problem with our schools, the NRA. It's remarkable how badly educated kids can be recruited to engage in all kinds of really dangerous and silly political activism.
It's true. It's incredibly shameful what's going on. And, it's actually funny that this came out at this time where you have all these union protests and teachers going on strike and saying we want more money and all the rest. But, I sympathize with a lot of teachers. And as I say often, teachers are many times just as much victims as the poor students of this educational establishment, this ridiculous system that they've built. But, what this shows us is that almost all these institutions in our society today have been corrupted. Why was the fake media not exposing these unions? Why does it have to fall on James O'Keefe and his, merry band of undercover journalists to bring this to light? When you have newsrooms like the New York Slimes and the Washington Compost with millions of dollars and armies of investigative reporters, they're out there with their tinfoil hats looking for evidence of collusion between Trump and the Kremlin. It's just a disgrace, the state of our media, our education, our government. It's really sad. And, to parents out there looking at this and saying, whoa, they're protecting teachers who beat and abuse children. How many wake-up calls do you need before you finally say, all right, I'm going to do something?
A lot of people, a lot of money, a lot of power involved in public education, almost none of it being used to educate our kids. Alex, thank you again for a wonderful takeaway. We will see you next time.